Good morning, dear participants in the forum. We are very glad to be here today with you at this very interesting session. We are going to talk once again about how the world has changed and how we are going to do business in the new format. In reality, the large-scale changes which occurred to the world in 2020 surprised everyone, and many companies made it through the pandemic very successfully. Even in January 2020, when the previous Gaidar Forum took place, such a topic was not on the agenda, and the modern technologies, in essence, allowed to streamline the new format of the workflow and to maintain the contacts with the suppliers, with the clients, and hold the meetings which before were held regularly only offline. And all the decisions at the board of directors meetings would be taken only in presentia. But it has to be admitted that the challenges of the COVID-19 were exacerbated by other factors. We see the standoff between different economies of the world, a trade war between the United States and China, permanent focus on the climate change, and the regulators now are studying more thoroughly the risks which are brought by the concentration of the data and digital in the hands of a few companies. Many indicators hit their historical highs, and following the results of the poll, 1/3 of the adults in the United States, 1/4 of the population of Canada, and 1/5 of the French adult population said that they feel anxiety after the start of the pandemic. Last year, our company published a geostrategical survey which shows how COVID-19 impacts the politics and doing business in many countries of the world. Dozens of countries, for instance, limited the export of PPEs and drugs in response to COVID-19. And they are doing their best in order to make sure that the products which is necessary to ensure the health of the countries is imported to the countries. India and some other countries stood up for the limitation and restriction of the copyright for the products which are most popular amid the pandemic. And business certainly has to create necessary preconditions for the growth after the pandemic, when the worst of the crisis is over. Many companies had to reshape their supply chain, and the automobile manufacturers, they have to buy 60% of the parts for their cars in China. When limitations and restrictions were imposed, dozens of automobile companies faced the risk of falling out of business just because of the shortage of parts and spare parts. Now they have to reshape the supply chain in order not to be dependent on one single supplier. Closing of the borders resulted in the fact that the programs which used to work quite well, such as, say, employees' mobility, came to a stall, and the employers right now can hire the personnel anywhere of the world as far as they can work digitally, so it brings in some convenience. Because of the uncertainty, the companies find it more difficult to make their business plans and to draft the budgets for the years to come, and we expected that the process of planning would be more difficult in the upcoming 12 months, because unfortunately the situation is not changing for the better, at least at the pace we would like to see. And it is very difficult to come up with a remedy, with a solution amid such a situation. Now, the business has to actually use big data-based analytics. The inequality and the access to healthcare is another quite important topic for all of us. So the pandemic is not only the healthcare challenge, but we have to look at the international commercial relations in a new way. The countries which managed to develop their own COVID-19 vaccine, Russia, United States, and China, they are using their supplies as a new kind of currency, as a new argument in the relations with the allies, in order to take a bigger stake in the international markets. And for instance, within the framework of the Council on the Foreign Investments, we wonder what is going on in Russia in terms of coronavir, the drug. The companies said that actually it's quite convenient to do business in Russia, even amid the pandemic, amid COVID-19. And the Russian market is quite convenient for 92% of the companies which took part in the pool, and half of the companies which took part in the pool said that they are going to expand their presence in Russia. The pandemic, the volatility of prices, commodity prices, macroeconomic instability did not affect the plans of these companies. The share of the companies which believe that the Russian market is of strategic importance for them remain the same or even goes up. And the consumption patterns and behavioral patterns are changing. More and more people are shopping online. More and more people mobilize in order to use internet technologies to do shopping. They prefer to use online money transfers or credit cards in order to pay for the orders. And here among the panelists, we see the representatives of the companies which are producing the consumer goods and the food. I think that we will get firsthand how the paradigm of doing business is changing with the COVID-19 in Russia and elsewhere in the world. What is so important for the consumers right now, what lessons we can learn from the pandemic, and what we can expect after the pandemic amid the new reality, what changes may occur to the command chain. And this is with great pleasure that I'd like to introduce to you our panelists. Today with us is Juvencio, Chief Financial Officer, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Ingka Group, Henrik Frank Nielsen, Senior Vice President, Head of Installation Northeast Europe, ROCKWOOL Group, and Charlie Cappetti, Senior Vice President, CIS in Turkey, Middle East, Essential Dairy and Plant-Based Products, CEO Danone, Russia. And my first question goes to Mr. Maeztu from Ingka Group. Before the pandemic, this is with great pleasure that actually I went to IKEA to do some shopping. IKEA used to be a center of gravity for the consumers, and this is not just about the construction materials, but also some good food which you cannot buy anywhere else. So it means that the people go to IKEA for good service, for good, tasty and not very expensive food. But I think that the turnover reduced by 2.4% annualized, or actually the reduction is about 70 billion Russian rubles, if I'm not mistaken. And I do think that online shoppers do business much better, and we see that the retail grew 118% against the same period of 2019. People no longer go to offline shops in flocks and probably will not do that after the pandemic is over because they will have new habits. How did the pandemic change the retail and how will it affect IKEA business?
Thank you, Alexander, and good morning and afternoon, everybody, and Happy New Year also in Russia. I hope you are all well. Exactly as you say, Alexander, things have changed at individual, at family, but also at society level. And before I share with you how things have changed for us in IKEA, I want to start by acknowledging how proud we feel of the results we have achieved the last year. Not only the result in itself, but also how we achieved that results. because despite of having more than 75% of the store closed for more than 2 months across all the 30 countries where we operate, we only sold 4% less in turnover, which is remarkable. And then our online grew by 60%. So we went from 11 to 18% in the share of online, offline. But also in the Ingka center business, where we operate center, the occupancy ratio was at 95%. And in Russia, for example, we ended up the year with a +3%, which is remarkable in these circumstances. But I say that it's not only the result, it's how we achieve the results. And this result was because we decided quite early to support coworkers, and we decided to protect employment and not to compromise employment. But also we decided to support communities. We put an additional 26 million euros fund to support community around us. But also we decided to support our tenants with holiday rent in all the shopping centers where we operate for the time they were closed. So at the end of the day, it's not only the result, it's how we achieve the result. And this is extremely important in Russia, because in Russia we operate 17 IKEA stores, we operate 14 mega shopping centers. We have big warehousing facilities like Esipovo, very modern installation, 4 factories for IKEA industry, but also purchasing organization working with 55 suppliers. So it's important, the stability of the result, to create a positive impact in the society. Then if I take your introduction, how things have changed, I would like to say that for us in Ingka, in the IKEA business, it's not change for us, it's not a transformation of 180 degrees. It's not abandoning the past and embracing only the future. It's a both and approach. It's transformation from within, keeping the strength from the past and adding things for the future. And I want to pay attention to 3 blocks: what we will keep and what we keep, what we will amplify and what we'll add, because it's the 3 of them together, what we call transformation. So what we keep forever the concept of democratic design, which is offering products that are affordable, which are with good design, good functionality, good quality, but also sustainable. So this we will keep. We keep the concept of the stores. The store will play an important role in the future. Maybe adding new functionalities like fulfillment, like we didn't have in the past, but the role will still remain in the backbone of the IKEA business. But also we will keep not only the range and that we offer, but also our understanding for life at home, how we present the range to meet the needs of the many people. This we will keep. What we will amplify? We will amplify the IKEA direction. And the IKEA direction is about making IKEA more affordable, more accessible and convenient, and more sustainable. And these 3 things were important before, and it will be even more important in the future. And also we will keep and amplify our culture and values, which is the glue that makes everything possible. And then what we add that we didn't have before, and this is a response to your question as well, we will add the omni-channel capabilities. So it's not only the store, it's about new formats, smaller formats, but it's about services, but it's about all the digital capabilities. And it's about the fulfillment solutions where the store will play an important role. And the totality of omni-channel, it will be greatly developed. We have been working for the last 2 years. We will accelerate this. Thanks to that, we have been able to go through a remarkable year due to COVID. And also what we will add, sustainability much more integrated into the business model, inside the business model. It's not sustainability by design, but integrated, because it has to be good business to be good business. If I take 2 examples, one example, we are famous for the meatball. We launched the plant-based bowl, which is 96% less footprint than the traditional one, and carbon footprint, and on top of that, great price and great taste. So it's good for the customer, good for the planet, and good for the company. Or the launching of the home solar that we are operating in many countries now, where a customer can save up to 400 euros every year in the electricity bill. So it is the integration of sustainability in the business model that is extremely important. So what we keep, what we amplify, and what we add. And finally, I think it's important for us, but I think it's important for the entire society, that the times we're in, we have to be even more determined in our positive impact in society and the planet. So we didn't have to a compass, a map to navigate, but we had a strong compass based on values. And it's about creating value for the customer, but also for the people, but also for the planet, and also for the company. That's why for us in Russia, as it is in many other countries, it's extremely important to go full in renewable energy, to go with electrical vehicles and electrical last mile delivery before 2025. It's about recycling materials and sustainable materials in the production of furniture. It's a circular economy. And in Russia, we have great example, like converting waste into resources in our factory in Novgorod, but also the EV of the last mile. We need to do more in renewable energy in Russia as well. But at the end of the day, it's not only what we do, it's also how we do, because it is in this how and the value creation that companies will pave the future.
Thank you very much for your answer. We like your meatballs very much. So this is the first food product I tried in IKEA when you came to Russia.
Yeah, you should try the plum ball as well.
Yeah, we'll do that. Henrik from Nielsen, ROCKWOOL International, I have a question for you. I'll ask it in English so it makes it easier in this case. So Russian manufacturers of building materials grew more quickly than the market in 2020. Despite the lockdown and the decline in purchasing power due to pandemic, demand for building materials was stable, and I could see it myself. Living outside of Moscow, I could see that people start to think, why do I live in Moscow? They start building up a lot of houses in the neighborhood, and I could see that the consumption of materials like your company materials was pretty much stable and good. The concessional mortgage program has become one of the key drivers for the residential real estate market in Russia. Further, the growth of real estate prices since the beginning of 2020 has exceeded, I think, 10%. And the regulator has even started talking about market overheating. So despite the pandemic, it was a good year for developers, construction companies, and materials manufacturers. How has your company copied? How has your company basically managed with the challenges to overcome the pandemic situation and be successful? That's my question to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra, and also thank you very much for the invitation, the opportunity to participate here. Unlike IKEA, we unfortunately in ROCKWOOL, we cannot offer our customers things we can eat, but but we have indeed many others offers on the table. And you're right, the luck, you can say, from our point of view is we're in the construction industry, because for sure that industry has been less affected by the pandemic than many others, not only in Russia but also globally. I think it's fair to say that of course there has been variations from country to country, but overall, pandemic of course have given us challenges. But basically, we have been fortunate that many countries look at the construction industry also as a vehicle to keep the business active in a period of crisis. So that has been an underlying positive support for us. And in Russia, indeed, as you say, the Russia state program for mortgage program for new residential buildings, but general renovation of government and private buildings, as well as the erection of new hospitals and medical centers have been a really strong driver and supporter for the market. That said, in a pandemic situation, think it's important for us being a heavy industrial producer. Safety and health has always been a prerequisite and the first priority. And in a pandemic environment, I think it has proven to really be a really good priority, because it has made it really easy for us to make clear guidance to our employees about what to do. We have defined what we call gear 1, 2, and 3, depending on the progression of the pandemic. That has really made everybody quite clear on what to do and what not to do, and being able to focus on the business tasks. As said also before, digitalization was already on the run, but we have also invested heavily and scaled up during the year. It is super important in a period like this, and in general for development going forward, that marketing, sales, and customer service is being readily and easily available for customers. We have also used digital technologies in areas which is super important for us. Namely, we have quite a lot of big CapEx projects around the world, and new technology has for sure made it possible to supervise and make sure we can do the CapEx projects despite the pandemics, which have limited travels, etc., etc. In Russia specific, local sourcing of raw materials and spare parts has always been a really important element for us. It's becoming increasingly difficult to actually get it, but we are still happy that we actually achieved to source more than 90% of all our needs in Russia last year. And with, I think I said before, also with agility, flexibility, and creativity from our people, we really managed to keep all our production lines running, because that was really important. As you said, there was quite a lot of demand. We did not have any shutdowns during the pandemic, and we managed to keep supplying, coming to all our customers. So we were not forced to lock something down like for instance IKEA has been. We have managed to operate throughout the period. And you can say we in a way, back to what I said before, in essence what ROCKWOOL does is that we help provide modern, fire safe, and energy efficient and comfortable buildings, from the big hospital to the small sauna in the dacha. And energy efficiency and saving of energy in buildings has become more important than ever, and is one of the key levers for many countries, also including Russia, to meet the ambitious targets set in the Paris agreements. And that has also been helping us through 2020 in general. So I'm really, as you said, underlying business has been good. It has also been good for ROCKWOOL in Russia, and I'm happy to say that we did a really solid result in Russia in 2020.
Thank you very much. That's good to know that your company is successful. It's very important to know that there are companies which are happy with their business operations in our country. And now I have a question for one more company which has been historically very successful in Russia, Danone. I have a question to Charlie Cappetti. Many companies found it difficult to maintain international sales at the same level in 2020. The pandemic increased uncertainty and consumer uncertainty about the future, to its contributed decline. And as a response to the new challenges, Danone announced a new anti-crisis plan for a few months. Then the plan provides for a greater autonomy for the company's regional offices, reduction of investment decision-making levels, and other measures. So is the new plan a global restructuring of your business, or is it a response to the crisis that everyone faced in 2020? And to which extent COVID situation has impacted Danone's business? And your priorities, did they change significantly since the beginning of pandemic? Thank you, Charles. That's a question for you.
Thank you, Alexander. And good morning, everybody. Snoven Godem. Thank you for the invitation. The question, the introduction you put about our company is an interesting one. Maybe a few words of context, because Danone is operating worldwide in 3 categories. I think the most visible one and where we are the biggest is the dairy and plant-based, essential dairy and plant-based business. And we are present in Russia with brands like Prostokvashino, Activia, Alpro, Danone. But our second biggest activity is specialized nutrition. It's mainly infant milk nutrition and very specialized medical nutrition solutions. And our third business is the water business. We have brands like Evian and Badois. And so when you look at Danone globally, we are a global food company. And our mission is really to provide healthy food solutions to as many people as possible. And so if you talk about our performance before COVID and now in 2020, you could see that consumers were already changing their behaviors. We like to call it a food revolution. I mean, if IKEA starts to launch their famous meatball in a vegan alternative, you can imagine that we did a big acquisition in plant-based products. So there are big shifts taking place in food. And so Danone was already anticipating this and working globally on adjusting the portfolio and thinking about how to adjust to this. Now, it's fair to say that the pandemic has sort of radically accelerated certain behaviors, which were there, but have been really accelerated. And this also happened in Russia, by the way. And I think like the other speakers, we are quite satisfied with our performance in Russia because our portfolio is adjusted to the realities. I mean, it's fair to say that we are dependent on the HoReCa channel and everything that happens in cafes and restaurants with a part of our business. And obviously, this was negatively impacted. But other effects were very positive, where people were cooking more at home and using our products like smetana and tvorog, and of course, masla. So you see a balanced portfolio performance. But overall, it was a good year for Danone in Russia. Now, and when Danone started to observe in 2020 all these changes, some decisions were basically accelerated. First, we already saw that consumers were appreciating more and more products produced locally. They want more transparency and they rely on strong brands for quality and heritage and authenticity. And this is something that we recognized and is accelerated. And secondly, I would say that healthcare systems are more and more now locally relevant. I mean, a big part of our business is done through healthcare systems, and this is another big trigger for changes. And so thirdly, with the ongoing pandemic, we also realized that we have to be more cost competitive and think about the way we are organized. And so, yes, in your introduction, you mentioned a big project that was announced to the market in Q4. It's a study that we call Local First. So Danone was historically organized by divisions, very strongly oriented on categories. And now we are going to transform the organization to a much more geography-led structure, where we're going to eliminate, let's say, old pyramidic structures and give more autonomy to our countries. And this is in the concept that we like to call ourselves not a multinational company, but a multi-local company. And so the foundations of this project, as you said, is basically based on 3 pillars. First one is really to empower our countries more. So we want to bring decision-making much closer to the markets, building on food that is deeply rooted in local culture and local habits. And so what it will mean is that in each country, we're going to one single entity with one single management team. So that's a big change in the Danone concept. Secondly, we will boost the agility and the flexibility of the organization and radically simplify our decision making. So we don't want more than 2 points of contact in decision making. This is a big change as well. And thirdly, the pandemic has demonstrated the acceleration of digital solutions in our ways of working. An example, we continue to invest in Russia and do projects in our factories, but where historically we had to fly in experts from all over the world, which we could no longer do, we used virtual reality solutions to accompany our local engineers to do those projects. I mean, we become much more virtual, and digital became a huge enabler to do business in this year. So we see this also as an opportunity, and that's the third pillar of our project, to become much more competitive in cost. So with this project, Danone has the confidence to become much more financially strong and go back to our profitable growth agenda. So COVID has sort of accelerated a lot of trends that were already there and encouraged Danone actually to go much faster in decision making.
So it's basically saying, think global, act local.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to summarize it. But I think indeed that food is so local, and I think we are very well placed to capitalize on that trend, and the entire company will move to a more has become obsolete, and so we need to transform and go to a new governance, which brings back power and decision making to the markets where we operate. Indeed.
Then I have a question, just starting additional questions with you right now. So when it comes to the technological maturity of the business and the digitalization of processes, has Danone Russia implemented any developments with great potential which can be used in other parts of the world rather than Russia? So basically, do you have anything from Russia which we are using uniquely in this market to offer to the Danone organization in other parts of the world?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's fair to say that we're also still experimenting a lot with artificial intelligence and virtual reality solutions, but we have worked with startups in Skolkovo, and we have implemented in our sales organization, which is really a big organization, a new Salesforce automation system, which works with photographic technology. So we do image recognition of all the products in the supermarkets, and this image recognition immediately downloads into the systems and allows us to very fast analyze in-store situation and support the retailers like the Magnets and the Lentas and the Auchans of this world to improve the in-store execution and work together on improving profitability. And that's a solution we're very proud of developed in Russia and hopefully can travel in different countries in the world.
Thank you very much. So now I have questions, the same question for each of you. I'd like you briefly to answer the same question. If we talk about your business in Russia, what are three main challenges and three main opportunities which you're facing here in this market? And briefly, I'd like you to cover them like in the last, like for each person, like 3-4 minutes. So I suggest we start with Juvencio, please.
Thank you, Alexander. And I like the way you phrase the questions, how a challenge becomes an opportunity and how can we build a positive view of the future. And this is pretty much connected with our agenda in Russia, in other places as well. So how can we make IKEA more affordable? Because affordability, it was important before, is going to be more relevant in the future, more accessible and convenient, and more sustainable. And I'm happy to say that we have good example in Russia moving in that way. For example, how to make IKEA more accessible and convenient. We just opened a planning studio in St. Petersburg. We have opened in July and December a city store, not only the big IKEA store in the outskirts, but city stores. But also we are developing much more how important is life at home, because life at home is more relevant than before. Why do I say this? Because the dining table becomes the boardroom table, and the living room these days becomes a playground, and the kitchen becomes the canteen for the people. And it's in these circumstances where we have to be even more convenient and more relevant to the many people. So and then finally, the challenge into opportunities, as I said before, is the full agenda on climate positive. And then full respect for every situation in every country at different places. But it is true that we all have to work together in the society, collaborating with different partners to really move forward with the renewable agenda and the climate positive agenda. So challenge that is an opportunity is affordability, is convenience, and is sustainability.
Thank you very much. So, Henrik Frank Nielsen, what will be your comments?
Yeah, thanks, Alexander. I'm not sure I have a very quick one, but I'll try anyway. Because part of what is challenges and opportunities can melt together, especially seen from a ROCKWOOL perspective. We clearly see the whole global warming agenda as a big challenge, but also as at the same time a big opportunity. For both for society, but also for many businesses, including ourselves, where we mainly see it as, on one side for sure, also a big challenge, being a really heavy industrial, going deep, melting rock at 1500 degrees, using a lot of energy, and at the same time selling products which is preserving energy up to 100 times more than what has been used during the production of the materials. It's a two-phased opportunity and challenge we see here. So, environmental sustainability for us is a key element in the opportunity thinking. The world for sure needs to reduce global warming. We need to use less energy. We need to decarbonize our energy consumption. We need to preserve the use of natural resources, create less waste, and et cetera, et cetera. And that is actually what we think is the cornerstone also of ROCKWOOL in Russia. And I think being curious, continuing looking around the corner, and being ambitious is for us super important in the cooperation with also the Russian customers and the Russian authorities to try to bring this opportunity forward. At the same time, that is also a challenge, obviously. But we for sure see it as an opportunity that we can extend our experience and expertise in the area of decarbonizing buildings and constructions, and we are happy to engage on that journey with the construction ministry and the DOM-RF, et cetera, et cetera. But it's when I really deep dive look at it, that's the point. We have such a big opportunity, at the same time a really big challenge, where we need to bridge what the society and governments want and what is possible in business. And I think we have a really strong local team in Russia. And before you asked about if there's something which can be taken out of Russia and use the success in other countries, and I'm not exaggerating if I say that at least in our group, the absolute best process people and the best and well-run factories we have in the globe are existing in Russia. So we export a lot of the process know-how we have in Russia to other markets. And that's an opportunity, I think, as well. It's a little bit of a, it's not free clear ones and free opposite ones. But maybe last comment is a little bit. I think it's super important in a period like we are in a kind of a crisis. Let's remind ourselves that there are a lot of really good business cases which actually started in crisis period, and it starts with being curious and being ambitious and daring doing something and making risks. And a small example from Denmark in the Great Recession in the early 1930s, there was a carpenter who had very little jobs to do, and he had a lot of wood waste and cut off in his shop. And he started making small pieces of toys for his kids. And he did that quite well, because doing that, he actually founded what we today know as Lego. So, you never know what happens.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you. Charlie, how's your turn?
Yes, I think it was Winston Churchill who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. But indeed, if you ask me really three examples, I think there's a lot of consistency, because I think what IKEA and ROCKWOOL see as a challenge for all of us, it's around sustainability. Danone has a famous vision that we call One Planet, One Health. And for us, it's very clear that the health of our planet, and if you think about it, humanity as a whole is one and the same. And I think this very philosophical big concept drives a lot of our decisions today. So one of our main opportunities is to do something in sustainability. Our business model, working with farmers on sustainable and regenerative agriculture, for example, is critical. Reducing plastics in our packaging agenda, but also water consumption are big topics for Danone to work in our ecosystems, and also here in Russia as one of the big challenges and opportunities. So that, I would say, is a big one for us, number one. Second one is what I said earlier, is to adjust to those changing food trends. Younger generation is demanding more transparency. They are changing their ways of eating. We have a big portfolio of dairy products. We are now moving aggressively into plant-based. I'm happy to announce that Danone is going to produce Alpro brand locally here in Russia. We used to import it from Europe, but now we're going to source, produce, and do it here in Russia. So that's a great news for us here, because we believe that plant-based categories will emerge very fast. So that's a great opportunity as well. And I would say the third big one, it's also about now working on a portfolio that remains in reach for the majority of Russians. COVID obviously has created a lot of stress, economic stress. Spending power is under pressure, and we need to stay with our portfolio and reach for all the Russians. So affordability and working on product propositions that are still relevant is I would say, a third challenge for us. So yes, sustainability, changing consumer habits, and affordability would be my list.
Thank you very much. So it looks like our time is ending. We have 1 minute to go. I just want to say that we had very good audience. What shows to me that pandemic can give you some advantages. During Gaidar Forum in the past, maximum in the room I had 250 people. I was told that now online we had around like 500 something visitors attending our session. So there are certain benefits in the new way we live and operate. As I said in the beginning, the world has changed, but the good thing is that we learn every time we're at the new change in the environment we operate. there were 4 industrial revolutions, and every time people were saying, oh, Jesus, automatization, computerization, digitalization will leave a lot of people jobless, we will be living in a different world, everyone is in panic, but every time things worked the best way for the humanity, and people enjoyed the new standards of living, and business was operating in a new environment in an efficient manner, and people had enough jobs. And I'm pretty much sure that we would be able to survive pandemic world, which will definitely change things how we operate, but we all will be successful if we stick to main basic rules of having business integrity, taking care of the environment we operate in, taking care of sustainable business, and thinking about the future. So tough times never last, tough people do. So saying that, I'd like to thank all the participants of the session. I'd like to wish everyone successful 2021, and I'm sure that the Russian market will offer us more new opportunities to be here for a long, long time. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to thank the audience for being with us today, and have good more sessions at Gaidar Forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
До свидания.
До свидания.
До свидания.
До свидания.